Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. The new Hearthstone expansion is coming. Yesterday at Blizzcon, Blizzard finally announced the upcoming Hearthstone expansion going to be coming out on December 4th, and it will be Rastakhan's Rumble. Yeah, we're going to get a troll-themed expansion, trolls, Loas, spirits. It's looking like a lot of fun. During the opening ceremony and the What's Next panel for Hearthstone, Blizzard revealed a total of 16 cards from the upcoming expansion. We're going to have to wait a while longer before the actual reveal season starts. Typically it lasts for around 2 weeks before the expansion comes out. But we can already take a little sneak peek on these 16 cards that have been revealed so far, and I'm going to give you my first impressions of these cards. Of course, many conclusions can only be fully drawn once we have the full set in front of us, and even at that point, experience has shown that playtesting is crucial. There will always be misevaluations before playtesting, and of course even more so without knowing all the cards and all the synergies that are possible. But anyway, 16 cards, most of them are quite interesting too, so let's take a look at what we know is coming. We know that each class is going to get a legendary Loa and a legendary champion. And the Loa for Paladin was revealed at BlizzCon. It is Shirvala the Tiger, a 25 mana 7/5 beast with Divine Shield, Rush and Lifesteal that costs 1 less for each mana that you have spent on your spells. So obviously Shirvala is not going to come down very quickly. It's not a corridor creeper. You're not going to be able to build up a board very quickly and discount it to 0 immediately. Discounting it to 0 requires spending 25 mana on spells, and that will take several turns at very least. Also, because of the very high mana cost that makes it completely unplayable, literally unplayable at the start, means that you will have to be able to spend a lot of spells before you can even hope to cast Shirvala. So there are some downsides to it, but there are also some upsides. Let's say you're playing some kind of Linessa build, for example. There are steeds going to be in it, lots of buffs going to be in it. Shirvala is eventually going to be very cheap, so it can be used in late game as a very good tempo swing tool. Divine Shield, Rush, Lifesteal, so it can remove something from the board, heal you at the same time, and still survive as a threat. So that's one way to use it. Another way would be for Holy Wrath Paladin to come back. Let's say you draw your entire deck. Then you will have Shirvala in your hand. It will cost almost nothing. You can play Shirvala. You can play Baleful Banker on the Shirvala, making a copy of Shirvala into your deck. And you can play Holy Wrath on the same turn. Draw Shirvala. Assuming that this works like the aura that Mountain Giants and stuff work, then this Holy Wrath, when it draws the Shirvala, will deal the 25 points of damage. We of course need to check it out how it actually is going to work, but that's the assumption at this point. So there you have a late game combo that deals 25 damage. I mean, if Shirvala cost 1 or less, you could play double Baleful Banker on it, so you could shuffle it back into your deck twice, but you won't be able to fit in 2 Holy Wraths. So you could only do it once per turn, but you could do it on 2 consecutive turns. Shirvala, Banker it, Holy Wrath it. Next turn, Shirvala, Banker, Holy Wrath it again. So you have that 2-turn 50 damage combo available. Overall an interesting card. Any cards that can cost 0 at some point are also very interesting already on the merit of that fact. But Shirvala is more difficult to get to that low cost than something like a Corridor Creeper. Then we have a new mechanic coming up, which is Overkill. And Overkill means that if you deal more damage to a minion than you need to, you get to do something else. In this case, Sultraze is a warrior weapon, 6 mana 4/4, Overkill you may attack again. So if there's a minion that has less than 4 health and you kill it with Sultraze, then you may attack again with Sultraze on the same turn. How can you make the best use of this? Well, Sultraze compared to old Fool's Bane, which was able to attack multiple times but couldn't go face, Sultraze can go face. So Sultraze, one use of Sultraze could be like clearing out a bunch of taunt minions and then still pushing face after that. And let's say you combine it with something like a heroic strike, give a hero +4 attack this turn, suddenly you have an 8 attack Sultraze, so it's able to clear up taunts quite easily and then still push a lot of damage to face. Otherwise, be some combo cards to go with it. There's a new card revealed, Sharkfin Fan, a 2-mana 2/2 pirate that after your hero attacks summons another pirate, a 1/1 pirate. So that could have some kind of synergies with this, although this card might also be better suited for something like Rogue. We will talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, Sultraze seems like a potentially quite powerful weapon for this type of mid-range or tempo warrior deck, where it can just smash through a lot of stuff and then finally go face as well. One of the spirits was also revealed. All the spirits will be 0/3 minions, there will be rare minions, there will be one for each class. So we got to see the rogue spirit, Spirit of the Shark, a 4-mana 0/3 that has stealth for 1 turn, and your minions sees battle cries and combos triggered twice. Note that it's only minions, not the battle cries and combos in spells or weapons, only minions. So this compares to Bran Bronzebeard, of course. Bran Bronzebeard is currently in Wild. There's a legendary minion 3-mana 2 for your battle cries triggered twice. Bran also triggered battle cries from weapons and spells. Spirit of the Shark does not. I played a lot with Bran back in the day. Bran was able to pull off some really insane stuff. I won some games with like 9/9 Silverhand recruits in Paladin. This is not to be underestimated. When these effects trigger twice, you don't get to choose another target. So it's useless with something like Vilespine Slayer, destroy a minion. Well, it destroys the same minion twice, but it's great with buffs. And we have stuff like Bone Mare, we have stuff like Fungalmancer. You play this, even if you Bone Mare this next turn, because it has stealth so it's unlikely to die, even if the rest of your board is empty, you Bone Mare this, okay, you give it +8/+8. It's an 8/11 taunt. That's pretty sweet. Fungalmancer, give adjacent minions +4/+4. This card has a lot of potential. I'm not sure what rogue archetype it's going to fit into. I mean, you kind of could use it with something like a Falderai Strider and shove a lot of spiders into your deck, but would that be strong enough? Typically these are strongest when they're used with buffs. But the effect itself is strong. It's definitely playable in some deck. But whether there's going to be the cards that will make that deck, we don't know yet. Warlock's new mechanics are going to be hand buff based, and I have to say this is something I'm not excited about at all. We got to see the Warlock Spirit, Spirit of the Bat, a 2-mana 0/3, stealth for 1 turn, like every spirit. After a friendly minion dies, give a minion in your hand +1/+1. And we got to see the Loa, Hereek the Bat, 8-mana 1/1 battlecry affiliate board with copies of this minion. So, okay, there's kind of potential. You could use Soul Infusion, you could use Spirit of the Bat, maybe you can buff up Hereek to be like a 5/5 or 6/6, there you get a board full of those for 8 mana. But that's a lot of setup, and hand buff as a mechanic has generally failed. Every time it has been tried in Hearthstone it has failed so far. So I don't expect these to become anything. We also got to see more Warlock combo disruption in the form of Void Contract. 8 mana, destroy half of each player's deck. It doesn't say if it rounds up or down. I'm a little bit sad about that. In Magic, cards would always say if they round up or down. But I'm generally very unsure whether we need this card for anything. Warlock already is the only class with combo disruption. It has Demonic Project. Each player transforms a random minion in their hand into a demon. This disrupts Megatoon combos, this disrupts Dogwaggle combos. There are just lots of combo decks that are disrupted heavily by the Demonic Project. So why Void Contract? Let's say you're playing a slower Warlock deck, because you obviously have to play some kind of slower Warlock deck, it costs 8 mana. You haven't drawn your cooldown yet. Are you ready to give 50% chance that you burn your own cooldown away? And also because the cards are destroyed from the deck and there's no real graveyard in Hearthstone, so those cards will not be able to be resurrected or anything. So it just seems that I cannot figure out a real use for this card at the moment. Will there be lots of combo decks that rely on spells and not minions, or make the combo from very many cards so that if you disrupt them at all it's fine, then this is better than Demonic Project? I have a very hard time seeing that. Maybe that can happen, but right now this looks like junk. Shaman is getting is it an upgraded Feral Spirit or downgraded Feral Spirit, or is it a spell from Phantom Militia? You be the judge. It's a 6 mana spell to summon 3 2/4 toads with taunt, and it overloads you for 3. That's a pretty hefty price to pay. I mean, it fits in even Shaman, that's cool. If you play it on curve, then the following turn you will be overloaded for 3, so you will have 4 mana, which is also an even number, so okay, there's kind of something going on there. It does give you sort of Phantom Militia-like power. Phantom Militia would be 9 mana for those 3 taunts. This is 9 mana spread over 2 turns for those 3 taunts. It buffs up your Sapphire Spellstone, so if you're playing Spellstone Shaman, Overload Shaman, that goes with the Giants and the Spellstones and that sort of things, then maybe Reign of Toads will be just the right answer for you to defend. Getting 3 taunts after all is not terrible. Then again, if you played on curve, you cannot Volcano next turn, for example. So there are lots of questions about this one. It's not going to fit into many Shaman decks. That is just a fairly hefty price to pay, and giving up your next turn so heavily. But there might be some applications for it, so we'll have to wait and see. Rogue is getting one of the more interesting cards that were revealed. I'm pretty excited about this card. Cannon Barrage. 6 mana, deal 3 damage to a random enemy, repeat for each of your pirates. So 3 damage to random enemy, it can go face. It can also fail to go face if there are minions on the board. But this is like a Greater Arcane Missiles of old. Greater Arcane Missiles was a mage spell. 7 mana that shot 3 missiles. But this one it's in a class that has preparation. It's in a class that looks like might be getting some pirate synergies. Pirate Rogue, some very aggressive Pirate Rogue. If you have 2 pirates on the board, this is an Arcane Missiles. If you have more pirates on the board, this is better. And it can also go face, so this one has a lot of potential. It will all depend on what kind of pirate package will be in standard format once we have the full set. Pirate Rogue just might be coming. Priest will be getting some kind of buff and sacrifice theme too, and it seems that they have decided that Priest should be sacrificing mana crystals. The revealed Priest card Surrender to Madness, 3 mana, destroy 3 of your mana crystals, give all minions in your deck +2/+2. We're all familiar with how good Prince Keleseth is. 2 mana 2/2 Battle Cry, if your deck has no 2-cost cards, give all minions in your deck +1/+1. This is a game-changing card. However, the price of playing Surrender to Madness is huge. Destroy 3 of your mana crystals. So far, every single attempt in Hearthstone to build cards that destroy mana crystals has failed miserably. None of those cards have ever been playable, because Hearthstone is fairly tempo based, and when you destroy your mana crystals, you're putting yourself behind, not just for that next turn, but also for all the turns after that, until you catch up to 10 mana crystals. Also, Surrender to Madness buffs minions in your deck. Well, it's exactly like Keleseth in that regard, but not once in your hand. So if you use this early in the game, and then you try to draw something that you could play that would have the +2/+2 buff, you're just going to die. You're so going to die. So the use for this would be in mid to late game, where you will already have enough mana. If you're playing a faster type of deck and lower mana curve deck, then you will already have mana to do things. But Priest doesn't have very good ways to draw a bunch of cards, unlike something like Warlock does, so would you really be running Pyromancer Circle, Cleric type of things with this? I've been trying hard to think of ways to use this, because that +2/+2 for all minions in your deck is very powerful, but this downside is huge, and I think this is going to end up being junk. However, this card could really be something in the right meta. Paladin's Immortal Prelate. 2 mana 1/3 with a death rattle to shuffle this into your deck, it keeps any enchantments. Already that part, shuffle this into your deck. So it's like an Astral Tiger. You can never fatigue when you have this. You just keep shuffling it back into your deck. It dies, you shuffle it back into your deck, it dies, you shuffle it back into your deck. It's just so hard to lose if you have this kind of card, and if you have a bunch of buffs on it, so it's a huge minion. Okay, so if it doesn't die, then you can shuffle it back into your deck, but if it doesn't die, it just kills the opponent, so what's there not to like? And just think about what kind of buffs you can have on this. You can have Valanir buff, and if you have Valanir buff on this, and it dies, it goes back into the deck with the Valanir buff, you get Valanir back into your hand as well, then you have 2 Valanirs, maybe you can shuffle 3 Valanirs, maybe you can work with 4 Valanirs, maybe you can give this multiple Valanir buffs, which will mean that when it dies you will get Valanir in hand and some minion in your hand gets a Valanir buff. That's insane. Spike-Ridge Steeds. This one dies, it leaves behind a 2/6, it comes back, it dies, it leaves behind a 2/6. Put it in the deck with Linessa. Linessa is going to have a ton of buffs as well. This one keeps coming back. It's possible to just overwhelm the opponent's ability to silence your good stuff with the Immortal Prelate and the buffs and Linessa. And if there is room for a slow Paladin deck, and when you're a fairly slow deck, it's possible that you're just too vulnerable to combo decks and they will just kill you from 30. They don't care that you have these big minions unless you are able to actually kill them. They just kill you from 30 when their combo is ready. Big deal. But overall, the power level, the potential of this card is just insane. If there's any chance to play a very slow Paladin deck, then this will be in it. Mage is also getting an interesting minion, Pyromaniac, a 3-mana 3/4. Whenever your hero power kills a minion, draw a card. So 3-mana 3/4, that's a premium stat line. That's the type of stat line that you really want to have for a 3-drop, if at all possible. That means that it's a 3-drop that cannot be really traded easily by smaller minions. They at least need multiple ones to kill through that 4 health. Just a very powerful minion of its own right. And then you can combine this with, let's say you're playing an Odd Mage. So Odd Mage already sometimes does on turn 5 something like Stonehill Defender or Tar Creeper and hero power. That's a fairly regular Odd Mage turn 5 play, especially against something a bit more aggressive. So this one doesn't have Taunt. So that's the question mark, is it good enough? Does the deck need that draw? But still, it's a premium stat line for 3 mana. You can play it on the board on 3, it doesn't necessarily die, so you get to use your hero power the following turn. You could use this on 5 with an Odd Mage, and you could use it with a Frostless Chain. You make a water elemental and you draw a card. So it's a card with a lot of potential, but it's uncertain whether the decks that would like to play it really need it, or whether they already have enough tools. But 3-mana 3/4, that's never a bad thing. We also got to see the Mage Champion, Hexlord Malakras, an 8-mana 5/5 with a battlecry to add a copy of your opening hand to your hand, except for this card. So that means that you're going to get between 2 and 4 cards, depending on whether you went first or whether you went second, whether you got that extra card, and whether you had the Malakras in your opening hand, which is something you definitely don't want, because that reduces its value quite a lot. It's an interesting card for sure. The downside is that 8-mana 5/5, the stat line is really weak. So it's a significant tempo loss to play this. Would you play this over something like Syndragosa? It's actually hard to see this being better than Syndragosa. Syndragosa is also 8 mana, but it's an 8/8, and it gives you 2 random legendaries. It also faces competition from something like Lich King. 8 mana 8/8 with Taunt gives you a very useful card. Is that card generation effect powerful enough? I'm not sure. It's a competed mana slot. It only fits in slow decks. You really wouldn't want to play this in a very aggressive mage deck, even if you could get like a bunch of burn back from playing this for 8 mana. And use your entire turn doing that when you're playing a deck that is tempo oriented. I don't see that happening. So I'm not sure if this is good enough to see play, because there's so much competition. Hunter is getting a new 1-drop, a Spring Paw 1 mana 1/1 with Rush, and a battle card to add a 1/1 Lynx with Rush to your hand. So it's an interesting 1-drop for sure. But how well does it really compare? Because Diamole is a fairly premium beast 1-drop, 1 mana 1/3. And if you don't care about the Peace stack, then there's Firefly. Neither of these has Rush, of course, and you might be able to use that Rush and some buffs, and you can use the Beast stack to activate Beast abilities. You could play this with like a Houndmaster. There are some scenarios where this is interesting, but the 1/1 stat line is quite weak, so I'm not sure if it will see play. Hunter also is getting a new spell. 5 mana Baited Arrow. Deal 3 damage, overkill, summon a 5/5 Devilsaur. So this can be compared to a couple of existing cards. It can be compared to Warlock's Bane of Doom. Deal 2 damage to a character. If it kills it, summon a random demon. This is very much like Bane of Doom, because the overkill requires that this 3 damage has to overkill. The minion has to have less health than that remaining. So in practice, if it deals only 2 damage or 1 damage, then it will summon a 5/5 Devilsaur. So it's kind of like Bane of Doom in that regard. It also resembles Flanking Strike a little bit. Flanking Strike deals 3 damage, but it always summons the 3/3 wolf. So for summoning purposes, it's generally worse than Flanking Strike, because that 3 damage is a pretty important number. This card does have one further advantage though, because it says deal 3 damage, not deal 3 damage to a minion, so Baited Arrow can go face. And many aggressive hunter decks are always looking for more ways to go face. Then that just might be something that tips the scales so that Baited Arrow is good enough to see play. It will heavily depend on the meta and what health totals minions will have in the meta game, but it's an interesting card. Finally, we're getting to the 16th card that was revealed, and it is Druid Savage Striker, a 2 mana 2/3 with a battle cry to deal damage to an enemy minion equal to your hero's attack. And unless we get something really sweet to give hero's attack, then this will be junk. It's a River Crocalist most of the time, and if you just use a hero power, you deal 1 damage. If you use Claw or Gnash or something, you might deal more, but when are you going to use that? You might use Malfurion hero power if you're already a Death Knight, then it could deal 3. It would be kind of okay in that position, but what kind of deck would want to run this kind of 2-drop that would then be played only on like turn 9 or turn 8 with Malfurion? It does not look strong to me at all. So overall we had a fairly typical card reveal. We get a bunch of cards that are really questionable, we get a couple of cards that seem like they're clearly junk, and we get a couple of cards that are really interesting and potentially very strong. Overall, I think it was a really nice balance, and I'm looking forward to Rastakhan's Rumble. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.